All right, I think we'll get started. I know there'll be a number of people joining throughout the next few minutes, but we wanted to get started because due to limited time and all of our schedules, we want to make sure we stay on time for the next hour. We'll welcome everyone to the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance and GBTA Foundation webinar. This is a pivotal conversation on harmonizing sustainable business travel procurement processes. My name is Glenn Manzik, CEO for the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, and I'm pleased to join today with our partners at the Global Business Travel Association. As you know, hospitality is the cornerstone of business travel. In 2022 alone, business travelers spent an astounding $394 billion on lodging, making it the largest expenditure of business travel sector. Hotel procurement is an integral part of managed travel programs, with travel managers frequently tasked with assessing thousands of hotel requests for proposals responses each year. In an era where sustainability is no longer a mere consideration, but a core priority, it is crucial for corporate travel buyers to streamline their RFP processes to efficiently evaluate the sustainability credentials of their hotel suppliers. This not only empowers hotels to respond more effectively, but also allows them to allocate greater resources towards implementing sustainable and responsible practices. Today's webinar marks a significant step forward in our collective journey towards sustainable business travel. We will delve into the newly established Sustainable Procurement Standards, explore best practices for integrating sustainability into travel procurement, and discuss how these standards can simplify the RFP process for both buyers and suppliers. So I thank you all for joining us in this critical dialogue. Your participation today underscores the importance of sustainability in business travel and reflects our shared commitment to fostering a more responsible and sustainable future. We are delighted to host this webinar, as I mentioned, in collaboration with the GBTA Foundation. We are recording this seminar for those that couldn't be with us today and to join at a later time. Today, we're joined by Kelsey Frankel, Director of Sustainability Program for GBTA, who will share insight on the GBTA Foundation and the Sustainable Procurement Standards before taking part in a panel discussion alongside Denise Naguib, who is our Global Vice President of Sustainability and Supplier Diversity at Marriott International, also a trustee of the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, and Mark Kuskari, Executive Director, Global Head of Travel and Management at UBS and President of GBTA. You can see from the agenda on the screen, Kelsey and I will give a brief overview of the work of the Alliance and GBTA Foundation on standards before we get into a panel discussion between Denise, Mark, and Kelsey. Certainly, if you have any questions throughout the session, please pop them into the chat box, and we will go through them all by the end and during the panel discussion. So to kick things off on the seminar, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to just share a quick update on what we are doing at the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance for those that may not know who and what we're doing. The work we're doing on harmonizing standards across the hospitality sector and how initiatives like this are shared and integrated into the conversation today. As you can see on the screen, we have an over 30-year legacy within the Alliance, and over the years, the name may have changed, but the fundamentals have not. But in 2020, we became a global charity. Our vision is to create a prosperous, if somebody can go back on the screen there, Susie. Our vision is to create a prosperous and responsible hospitality industry that gives back to the destination more than it takes, to provide a strong market signal that the industry is taking sustainability very seriously. Next slide. Our effort at the Alliance is to drive collaborative action to enable that every hotel to operate responsibly and grow sustainably. In that regard, we convene the industry in a pre-competitive way, where there's an open sharing of IP and knowledge in order to advance sustainability in a catalytic way. We create global partnerships. We do not like to do projects in silos. We like to work in an integrated way with partners. We focus on taking very practical action, and we are all about moving and building a movement and not a private club. As you can see, over the last couple of years, the membership has grown substantially by over 300%. And in terms of the hotel companies, you can see the portfolio of effort that is really brought together with the C-suite leaders across these industries, both large and small. Alongside this, we collaborate with members across the hospitality and tourism value chain to explore innovation, create alignment, and delve into collective action. Layered upon this is over the past years, a couple of years, we have developed formal partnerships. Next slide. With the leading NGO organizations in the world. And as you can see on the top row, within those partnerships, the Global Business Travel Association is one of them. Next slide. One of the most critical challenges we face in sustainability within the hospitality sector is the lack of harmonization. With the plethora of methodologies for calculating and reporting impact, along with the myriad of certifications and accreditations, we are grappling with misalignment in language, definition, and full of acronyms. In the case of the conversation on this webinar today, this fragmentation leaves business travel buyers unsure of the right questions to ask, while hotel suppliers are overwhelmed with non-material sustainability questions. Our industry's true downfall lies not in speaking in the same language, but hindering our collective progress for sustainability because we're not. Next slide. So how is the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance tackling this lack of harmonization head on? We've set out a collective vision for net positive hospitality. This is a real fundamental philosophy to send a strong market signal, as I mentioned, that this industry is taking this very seriously for sustainability. We wanted to enable hotels to progress towards an ambitious vision. We have developed a comprehensive pathway to net positive hospitality, founded on all the frameworks that the industry needs to respond to create a by industry, for industry solution.
Sorry, Glenn, can I just interrupt 1 minute? We're finding a lot of people can't see the slides. So I just wanted, I know Susie's mic isn't working, so I just wanted to ask if we could quickly reload the slides now and see if everyone can see them. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. I can see that it's reloading now. It was not, I think I mentioned before, it was not. So
Can you drop a message in the chat if you can now see the slides? Everyone? Yeah. Oh, mixed reviews. It's 50-50 between whether or not people can see the slides now.
Candidly, I see several of my Marriott colleagues. It's not working on our Marriott side, so I don't know. There might be some that are external, but so far everyone that says no is on the Marriott team, so not sure what's going on here.
We'll certainly make sure we share all slide decks afterwards, and you'll still be able to hear the whole discussion. So I hope that's okay for everyone. You could try leaving and rejoining, but I'm not sure. It sounds like that's not working for people. But I'm glad it's working for a lot. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Laura. So as I mentioned, we have really focused on developing the net positive hospitality framework and developing a comprehensive pathway to get there. Next slide. The pathway provides a clear, practical guidance along 15 crucial material topics, offering comprehensive guidance, including checklists, tools, and resources. And this digital tool and resource empowers hotels to prioritize, plan, take practical action, and ensure accessibility for hotels of all sizes and experience levels. Alongside this digital pathway, hospitality companies can also access a progress tracker to evaluate and compare their journey along the pathway. Next slide. To achieve net positive, we must strategically address a range of sustainability issues confronting our world. This requires basing our decisions on reliable data and understanding performance at the hotel, company, and industry levels. We must empower our stakeholders, customers, asset owners, and others to make informed strategic decisions and respond adeptly to the evolving legislative landscape. Currently, this process consumes considerable time, money, and effort. However, there exists a tremendous opportunity to enhance our current situation by defining what sustainable hotel is and should be doing, improving existing measurement methodologies, harmonizing data tracked across the industry, optimizing data gathering and distribution processes, and providing meaningful data to stakeholders. By doing so, we can reduce financial and capacity costs associated with reporting, thereby freeing up more resources to focus on activities that propel the industry to a more net positive future. In answer to this, over the next 6 to 8 months, we are underway with an integrated set of key projects. Universal Sustainability Criteria, Hotel Sustainability Basics Plus, Enhanced Carbon and Water Measurement, and a streamlined data management and reporting system. In terms of the criteria, the Alliance is leading a global collaborative effort of operators, investors, asset owners, managers, experts, and strategic partners to establish clear, measurable, and approachable set of criteria and measures built on the net positive framework and other existing frameworks. It is not intended to create a whole new standard. The Alliance will determine how the various frameworks already in existence fit together and how they can be harmonized. One particular, as you see on the screen, is on the customer side, and we're proud to be working with the GBTA to ensure responsible business travel practices are embedded within the universal criteria. The Sustainable Procurement Standards that we'll be discussing today will be a key aspect of this. As part of the criteria, our vision is to align the industry around industry-leading, future-proofed, globally applicable, and well-recognized carbon and water measurement methodologies and tools, with an ambition that they can be used by most of the industry to measure and reliably report on their progress. We plan that these methodologies will be fit for purpose until at least 2030 and answer audiences' needs, including corporate customers, OTAs, investors, considering the need to strengthen specific uses and timelines of data used. The approach will be inclusive and engage the industry and all key stakeholders to create an outcome that is widely supported and embraced across the industry. So the aims of this project is to create an updated hotel carbon measurement initiative with a methodology and tool that is future-proofed, that the method is signed off on and built on the GHG protocol, and relevant updates to the WMI water measurement tool, and guidance for how the industry can report on Scope 3 are key issues of this initiative. Next slide. Parallel to these is the research on data management and how best to manage data to create a for industry, by industry solution. Overall, the work on standards reporting efforts will interconnect with an update to the WTTC's Basics Plus initiative, universal criteria, the update to the carbon and water measurement tool underpinned by a comprehensive data management reporting system. In addition to the WTTC basics, the universal criteria will align with key industry initiatives, including the GBTA's standards, as we discussed today, the UN Tourism's ESG framework for tourism, travelist accommodation framework, and GSDC's criteria for accommodation and hotels. On this journey to net positive future, we're deeply honored to be working closely with GBTA and the GBTA Foundation to harmonize our approach, find solutions, and explore opportunities for innovation. We're proud to have supported the development of these sustainable procurement standards for corporate travel. So with that, I'm pleased to hand the floor over to Kelsey to share more insight on how the standards are created and how they can be used and deployed within the industry. So Kelsey, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my slides. And just if I can get a few thumbs up, that'll make me happy because I know a few folks are having issues. So as long as some of us can see it, it means Teams is working for some. Awesome. All right. Well, I don't know about the rest of you who are based in the US, but I just came back from my 4th of July long weekend. So welcome back, everyone. I hope you're all feeling refreshed and energized as I am. And I'm really excited to tell you more about our work around harmonization and the Sustainable Procurement Standards. So my name is Kelsey Frankiel. I'm the director of our sustainability program at GBTA. And I'm just going to give you a little bit more background into this effort. So just in case, if you don't know who GBTA is, we're the Global Business Travel Association. It's the largest global platform for business travel, bringing together on one side of the coin business travel buyers, who are the people that manage travel policies at corporations, and relevant to this conversation, those who also manage contracts with business travel suppliers, who are on the other side of our membership. So airlines, car rental companies, all of the intermediaries and technologies, RFP platforms, and of course, hotels. Our industry has $1.4 trillion in spending power, and I'll tell you why that's so important a little bit later on. So the GBTA Foundation is a charitable arm of GBTA. We were launched to create a better future, not only for our industry, but also for our workforce and for the planet. One of the things we do really well is bring together players across the value chain of business travel. So buyers, suppliers, sustainability standard setters like the Alliance, to find harmony in the way that we're communicating about sustainability in the business travel world. Easier said than done. We're super, super grateful to our supporters for allowing us to do this work. And in particular, our partners in the hotel space include BWH, Hilton, IHG, Accor, and of course, Marriott, who's joining us today for this discussion. So how did we get here? As Glenn mentioned, hospitality is a really, really crucial component of business travel. Business travelers spend more money on lodging than any other vertical, and hotel procurement makes up a massive part of managed travel programs, with travel managers often assessing thousands of RFP responses every year, and a lot of them do this annually. So it's a big effort. Travel managers increasingly are including sustainability questions in their RFPs and in their procurement process. You can see here it's about 57%. And a fewer number, but still a crucial number of them, are actually selecting suppliers based on their responses. So if we take that number from before that I mentioned, that $1.4 trillion spent on business travel, and apply even just that conservative 34% number, that's 500 billion put towards suppliers committed to sustainability. So it's really, really important. So it's becoming more and more important for business travel. And one of the major ways that buyers are determining which hotel suppliers share their values is through this procurement process. So more and more travel managers are asking not only planet, but also people related questions. But sometimes they're unsure what questions to ask. They might not know how to align these questions with existing sustainability frameworks and how to use that information in a straightforward way. Whereas on the other hand, hotels are feeling that they're getting inundated with unique questionnaires and questions, and they're not always sure how that information is going to be used. So again, with more and more travel programs incorporating sustainability goals into their supplier relationships, it's imperative that buyers have a straightforward and open source way to analyze the sustainability performance of their hotel suppliers. As you all will well know, in the sustainability and hotel space, there is no lack of ESG frameworks and standards. And again, the issue is that for business travel, there was no one open source model that harmonized procurement questions and aligned with these frameworks. And I don't need to make this argument to all of you, but both buyers and suppliers are feeling really bogged down in this process. And they need a straightforward way to streamline this so that you all can spend more time on our actual decarbonization work. So all that being said, we created the GBTA Sustainable Procurement Standards, which is a framework that can be used across any vertical. So it's a library of open source people and planet questions to support the procurement process. So last March, we released our standards for aviation. Our standards for hotels are now available, and we also have car rental coming in the fall. A little bit of background as to how these were created. So in terms of the development, as I mentioned earlier, it's really important to us that we convene stakeholders from across the business travel value chain. So not only buyers and suppliers, but also RFP providers, sustainability standard setters, all of the intermediaries and travel management companies. What's important for you to understand is these were not just created by GBTA or by the foundation in a silo. They were very much created by you all, by the industry, over many, many months of work and consultation. The way that it worked is we started by saying, okay, what's the holistic set of topics and questions a buyer may want to ask about? Because our goal from the beginning was to cover the holistic ESG spectrum. So we understood what those were, and then we sought to align the questions with existing sustainability standards and frameworks. So not only like the Alliance's metrics around carbon, water, and waste, but also around the Hotel Sustainability Basics and Travelist and GSTC. We then brought that draft to our suppliers, so to the hotels, to ensure that the questions were worded clearly and included the most material topics from their perspective. And then finally, a really important step was to consult with the RFP platforms, so to make sure that the questions were worded properly for those technologies. We defined the level of buy-in needed for each vertical. So for the hotel vertical, obviously we wanted sign-off from our hotel partners, but also from our GBTA Sustainability Committee, which collaborated with us on this effort. So that represents both the buy and supply side, but then also the GBTA accommodations committees, as well as their RFP task force, and then finally the Alliance. And in terms of the number of hotels that we were able to get feedback on, those represent 1/4 of the global hotel market in terms of rooms, which is actually quite significant when we're talking about harmonization. We consulted them at the brand level, but obviously they represent properties across the globe. And we worked with brands that had a very high business travel spend. Some of the key features to the standards, for the first time ever, they incorporate the globally standardized methodologies around carbon, water, and waste. So thanks very much to the Alliance for that. There's about 50 questions spanning topics like certifications, energy, biodiversity, communities and destinations, even DE&I. And the point is, it allows buyers to choose the topics that are important to them. So, you know, which of these questions are important for their reporting, for their analysis. It's mainly in yes/no question format, which allows for a more straightforward analysis. Although there are some open-ended questions, but again, as I said, you all know how complex this process is, so we really needed to make it as quantitative as possible. And the open source format, so the fact that it's available to all of you, means that we're all on a level playing field, and now hotels have an opportunity to update their internal reporting technologies, their systems, and get ready with your responses and house them so that you can be ready whenever the standards are operationalized in the RFP platforms. So how should they be used? When you download the standards today at our website, gbtafoundation.org/SPS, you will get an overview of the standards. You will get an educational guide on sustainable hotel procurement, and I'll talk a little bit about that. You'll get the questions themselves, of course, and then you'll get an industry alignment mapping, which is just a reference to show you how we mapped the questions across some of those other frameworks so that you know nothing was, created in a silo. We're saying if you're a corporate travel buyer, you're going to download these questions and you're going to have a conversation with your team about, what are your sustainability priorities? What are your needs? And these are some of the reasons that we know that buyers ask these questions. So what we would say is look at these questions and actually map them against these 4 objectives to see what is most important to you. So is it assessing the ESG performance of that supplier? Is it about your own reporting? Is it about sending a demand signal, or is it about making that procurement decision that goes beyond cost? The guide will really help you in that effort if you're a buyer. So it'll go a little bit behind the curtain of what's behind hotel certifications and labels, understanding carbon footprints, those metrics I mentioned around carbon, water, and waste. But also how hotels are currently supporting communities and destinations. So it's a really, really rich resource, and I highly encourage that you take a look at it. If you're a hotel, there's going to be this period where the RFP technologies are updating their systems to align with the questions. So use this period to update your internal systems and prepare. And Denise, as Glenn mentioned, and that Denise and Glenn are going to speak to in the panel discussion, the Alliance is also doing some work to bring together the universal criteria for sustainability, and that will include these questions as well. So we're going to help you hopefully operationalize these in the context of everything else that we have going on in this universe. So how can you support us? There's a few things you can do. Obviously, download the standards today, take a look, let us know what you think. Give us a follow on LinkedIn as well as our newsletter, and that's where we'll be posting, hopefully not anytime soon, but updates to the standards as we mature in this area. You can help us by liking and sharing our posts. And if you plan on using the standards, reach out to us at sustainability@gbta.org to share a statement of support. And we're also super, super open to your feedback as well. As I said before, this was a tool created by you all, by the industry. So if you see opportunities to improve, please let us know. And I think I will leave it at that. Back over to Glenn.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. That was fabulous. Great overview of the exciting day, exciting achievement after 2 full years of effort. So we thought we'd spend a few minutes with a couple of leading experts to bring into the conversation. As I mentioned, Mark Kuskary, who's the chair of GBTA, but also the global head of travel management for UBS, and Denise Naguib, who is the vice president of sustainability and supplier diversity at Marriott International. So Mark, maybe you can tell us about how UBS's strategy to sustainable procurement and some of the key challenges for corporate travel buyers. Just give us a little insight on what that's all about for you.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much, Glenn, for inviting me to participate on what is a really hot topic, right? And an ever-challenging environment for buyers and suppliers as well. So I'll talk broadly from a UBS and obviously broader perspective from travel buyers from my role in GBTA. Look, our commitment is to put sustainability at the heart of our business travel program. Whether that's through transparent internal reporting of emissions, targeted awareness, and offering the most sustainable travel alternatives. We've developed a clear travel sustainability framework across 4 key areas in our journey towards more sustainable travel. And procuring green is an essential part of that.
Mm-hmm.
During our sourcing process, we adopt our UBS standard ESG criteria questions, along with additional, category specific, and probably Denise will say we're inundated with thousands of those criteria, which is the essential reason why standardization and harmonization is so essential. We want to make the environmental impact of our sustainable our supply chain transparent and trackable. By inviting our suppliers to provide climate disclosures on CDP today. We want to create greener travel marketplace, greener choices for our travelers. And a broader point, it's extremely challenging for many buyers who don't necessarily have the scale of team to support them as well. Sustainability, as we've all seen, is ever evolving, new terminologies. We all have to try and be sustainability experts. So it's definitely a learning curve for buyers who might not be climate experts, as I mentioned, or have the bandwidth or scale of team. So moving towards net zero across the travel supply chain isn't easy, and we have to continue, as you quite rightly mentioned, we have to collaborate, work together on this journey.
Yeah, really well said, Mark. And building on that, Denise, how does the lack of standardized criteria really impact from the supply side?
Oh, it's super easy for us. Just kidding. I think, Mark, you're absolutely right. I mean, this growth in focus on attention to sustainability criteria has been incredibly amazing to see. I've been in my role in sustainability for nearly 19 years in the industry, and it is amazing to see what has happened. We started reporting sustainability data to our customers 12 or 13 years ago. In real detail, carbon metrics through the Hotel Carbon Measurement Initiative, water metrics, and then a few other kind of attributes, if you will, around the hotel operations. And, it started off with just those handful of things that, clients, customers were asking us about, and has grown to an incredibly broad set of questions that there is interest in. And I think the biggest question from a supplier perspective is, what are the metrics that actually matter? What are the things that are being used for decision making, and how can we activate and move the industry, not just one hotel or a handful of hotels, to really make meaningful impact and progress on the things that are going to impact the world that we live in, both on the people and the planet side. So for some customers, that was a very focused effort on metrics like carbon or water. For others, it was on DEI or volunteerism or human rights. For others, it was, water and products and a variety of things. Well, what that started to do then was create a variety of questions that we were getting in a variety of ways on a variety of topics. And the team that is, fortunately in our organization, we have, a good size sustainability practitioner team. In some hotel companies, there is nobody actually responsible for this. I can only imagine how they are managing. And then there's everything in between. And then for the hotel level, to be able to really answer some of these questions, some of which candidly did not always make sense, was very, very time consuming. So the scale, the volume, the complexity, the diversity of questions was getting candidly out of hand. We were spending an incredible amount of time, we are spending today, an incredible amount of time responding to the variety of questions and the ways that customers are asking them, the systems that are being used to capture them, et cetera. And candidly not knowing what happens on the back end, right? Like what is actually transpiring once this information goes across the digital divide and gets to the other side from the customers. For a few customers, they would advise us, you know, these are the metrics, this is how we weight it, et cetera. But otherwise, we were spending a lot of time providing a lot of transparent information and not knowing what was really meaningful and making progress. So I think this idea of, you know, well, there's sustainability teams that manage this. Yes. And when we do that, we don't do the actual work to drive the impact. And I think that's an area that all of my practitioner colleagues and I are really feeling is that, you know, the reporting is so important and we want it to be really effective, but we also need to do the work of driving ESG across the system. And that also, you know, means rolling up our sleeves and doing the work to report on. So it's been really complicated, Glenn, to answer your question, and we're super excited to kind of take that next big stride as an industry to the right direction.
Well, that's fabulous. And Kelsey, you know, really, when we talk about complexity, how does this sustainable procurement standard address this issue?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, actually where this whole project started is buyers were asking us that question, Denise, around like, how do I actually analyze the responses? Like, you know, is there some kind of scorecard template that I can use? And certainly, you know, buyers can use things like EcoVadis or other methodologies that will give them a score, but a lot of buyers don't have the resources to use those things. And they might not even be involved in the RFP process. They might be doing their own manual process. And so the issue was that we have corporate travel buyers at a range of maturity levels and at a range of how they're doing this process. And so we had to create a model that was open source that everyone had access to. And when we actually went down the route of thinking about, okay, how would we give buyers the opportunity to score? We realized, wait a minute, we don't even have consensus on the language, on the questions that we're asking. So let's harmonize that first and then look at the analysis piece next, which is something that we are exploring for 2025. So as I said, it's a library. Buyers have the opportunity to look at the 50 questions, choose what's important to them, and hopefully it will give you a more straightforward process to incorporate that language into those systems. And that when you go to RFP, the suppliers, your hotel suppliers, will already recognize the questions that you're going to ask and be prepared to respond to them. So nothing here is new. You know, everyone should recognize some of the stuff that's included in Travelist, that's included in the Hotel Sustainability Basics that the Alliance is promoting. And so really this is an exercise in communication and getting us all on the same page, right?
Yeah, that's so yeah. And Denise, you know, as one of the many hotel practitioners and representatives that were involved in the process of developing these standards, you know, maybe just talk to us a little bit about what went through this from your perspective.
Yeah, as you can imagine, there were lots of perspectives to kind of that were brought to the table. And I think Kelsey's important point earlier about both the number of hours, the 2,000 plus hours. I'm not sure if that involves all of the, you know, side dialogues and engagements that happened outside of the formal processes to get alignment, because I think that's really a foundational element. What we may think is kind of most critical is immaterial for our buyers to actually leverage. What buyers may want is not necessarily something suppliers can provide. And the data systems sort of in between have to be set up in a certain way so that this is easy to implement, right? Like there can't be an essay on the backside of each one of these questions that needs to be written and evaluated. So the availability of these questions, or the ability for them to be, you know, yes, no, or metrics based, is really important. So we did, you know, I'm fortunate to be a member on behalf of Marriott of the GBTA Foundation Sustainability, along with IHG, Accor, BWH, and Hilton. We worked deeply on vetting these metrics, really, you know, shredding them apart and putting them back together in as many ways as we could. There was a lot of dialogue and consultation that we worked through with us as kind of the sustainability practitioners, the travel management companies, consultants, industry bodies, the Alliance, and others. We really looked at this from a 360 view perspective, starting really with that question of, you know, what's Mark going to ask me? and how can I best address buyers' questions, and for what purpose? And then really thinking about how do we make sure that those questions, again, are worded in the most simplified way, and ultimately so that the buyers don't modify them, right? Because like we said, our ability on the supplier side to build systems, to get our suppliers, our hotels to answer those questions in a systematic way is going to only make the buyer's ability to catch on the other side even better. So again, 25% of the hotels in the world were part of this consultation, which is quite significant, and we're probably the ones feeling most of the inbound questions as well. And so I think that alignment across and working through, and remembering to, expression I love to use is, let's not let perfection be the enemy of good, right? Like we have to make progress in this space. And if we spend so much time spinning on the micro words, then we're not going to make the impact that we need. And ultimately putting it in front of our travel buyers to make sure that it is something that they can action against and use for decision making, because that's what's going to start that flywheel effect of making the change.
Absolutely. And Mark, from a travel buyer perspective at UBS, how will you use these standards?
Yeah, Glenn, I mean, just listening exactly, what Denise was saying, the only way we're going to really embed these standards if we start utilizing them, right? And this thing that this search for perfection, we need to start now. The little that I always say, the little that we do today is better than what we did yesterday. So we're actively working together, both our travel and sustainability teams, to start to map these questions against our priorities, the purpose of each question and how we plan to utilize or analyze the responses. We just want to use them. And ideally, we want to use these standards as part of our sourcing process for 2025, which is, as all our supplier partners will know, we're coming to the season where, it gets really challenging from every buyer's perspective as well. So in order for that to happen, we also need to hope that the RFP platforms will be able to embed these as a priority. And, decision making sustainability criteria will become an essential part of the decision-making process. I really will be as we're honest with all our partners, we're very transparent, made that very clear from the outset. And over the years to come, have become an even more critical part of that decision-making process. So our plan is, we definitely would like to start using it for our 2025 rates, but hopefully we'll get those platforms all ready.
Absolutely. And Mark noted, Kelsey, about these RFP platforms. And so what should users expect?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, there's a group under GBTA called the GBTA RFP Task Force, and they are tasked with updating all of the questions and making sure they're fit for purpose for all RFP platforms. The last time this was done in a major way was in 2013. So this was actually the first issue. Buyers felt like the questions weren't quite meeting their needs when it came to sustainability, and it was well time for an update. So we worked with that task force to make sure the questions were fit for purpose for those platforms. And the questions that you see today are the exact questions that will show up in the RFP catalog when that's released. In terms of the different providers, every RFP provider is different in terms of their timeline, and that's why we released it open source, was because we wanted to create a level playing field and give everyone an opportunity to start updating their systems. But as Mark said, if you're interested in using these questions and you really want to see them in upcoming RFP systems, talk to your RFP provider, show that demand signal, and let them know that you're interested in that.
Excellent. And, I wouldn't leave this opportunity unscathed to say that we're very proud to have, obviously, Denise, who's also a trustee on the board of directors of the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, but also co-chair of our Standards and Reporting Impact Committee. And so the question I have for you, Denise, is how do you see these procurement standards, as I referenced a little bit at the beginning, but from your perspective, be integrated into our work on the universal criteria?
Yeah, the work to, again, align as an industry and work through the universal criteria is really critical. And the second step of that is to get the data management solutions right so that we can provide these data sets in the RFP processes, but also in other channels, right? It's not the only place that hotels, for example, provide sustainability information to travelers. So looking at that kind of holistically, I think, again, the industry alignment here is just so critical, and fully integrating this criteria into the processes that Glenn, you mentioned, that the Alliance is working through is just really, really critical. And ultimately, you know, the goal is to continuously be more and more transparent with this information, putting in front of the individual travelers, the meeting planners, the business travel community, in order to leverage as part of the decision making. That will be the signal and the driver for more and more impact to be made in our industry. And it's an incredible opportunity for our industry to lead in this space. So I think just getting that alignment is really important. And just one more comment, I'll just pick up on Kelsey's comment on, you know, there are 50 plus metrics here or questions that can be asked. The intent is not to ask all of them. It's really back to the comment that Kelsey shared, right? Pick the ones that you can and want to use for your company to make meaningful impact and progress. Again, everybody has different areas of focus, your own company's goals. And so, you know, and then help signal that back to the supplier, right? The articulation of what metrics are you pulling across and how are you actually using them for part of the decision making, and where are there opportunities for improvement for suppliers, and also where are they really, you know, doing well and have an opportunity to, you know, win more of your business as part of the delivering against some of these things. These metrics that you share back as a buyer, I think, are also really, really impactful and important for suppliers and, you know, owners of hotels in the place that we operate, to be able to really make the right, clear articulation of the value that these efforts have.
Awesome. Well, fabulous answers to all those great questions. And I just wanted to, we have about 12 minutes left on the schedule. And we wanted to open up the conversation to those in the audience to ask any questions of these fabulous experts to drill down into the opportunity. And so I'm going to pass the floor to Laura and ask if there are any questions in the chat.
Yep, we have one question to kick us off. Please carry on adding questions as we go along. But the first question is from Monica. We have, how are the GBTA Sustainable Procurement Standards aligned to the CSRD requirements that corporate buyers have to adhere to? Who wants to take that one?
Want to pitch that one, Kelsey?
Sure, I can take that. And I'll also let Mark follow up as well, being a buyer based in Europe that has to deal with this. So under CSRD, companies in Europe over a certain threshold are going to have to, as of this year, start reporting on their scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions, which is huge because, as we know, business travel falls under scope 3 emissions. It's scope 3.6. So if you're not already seeing corporate travel buyers asking you for carbon data, they're certainly going to. And it's really, really important that hotels have this data at the ready and that they know that the data is validated and that it can be communicated in a transparent way. So in the Sustainable Procurement Standards, you'll see questions around, you know, is your hotel using the HCMI methodology to calculate its carbon? If so, what is that metric? And really, you know, this gives buyers the ability to actually, if they wanted to, take that metric and then calculate the number of room nights they've used throughout the year and actually figure that out for themselves. So it's a really, really powerful tool for buyers to be able to use. Even if you're not based in Europe, you know, if you're a hotel chain or a buyer, you're going to see this coming to prominence anyway, because it's active along the entire value chain, right? Both buyers and suppliers, no matter where they're based. So the point is, this is a tool that's going to be able to help you with that. When it comes to the European Commission's methodology to support CSRD, they're currently working on a methodology and framework called the PEF, that they're saying will be available by 2026. And so we're now in conversations with them, us and the Alliance and others, to advocate for HCMI being integrated into this framework, as it's a standard that 30,000 plus hotels are already using. Mark, is there anything you want to add to that?
Look, I think you've articulated it in such a very simple way, and sometimes we get bogged down with complicating it, but I think you did an amazing job there. And just to reiterate that point, be prepared for other. Just because it's being implemented in the EU doesn't mean it's not coming to you somewhere else across the globe. And anything you can do today to prepare has to be good for everybody. That's the only thing I'll reiterate from that.
Perfect. Thank you both. We have another question. So one for perhaps yourself, Glenn. How far is the Alliance in creating a standardized measurement for CO2 footprint calculation? So
on that, yes, on that note, yes, we are updating. So it was the HCMI tool was created about 12 years ago. Went through a small update last year, and this year we intend to do a significant update to it, which will provide the data more transparent, more timely, but founded on GHG protocol standards. So what we've done is we're beginning the process right as we speak. We intend to see that process through over the next 6 to 8 months.
Wonderful, thank you. We don't have any other questions in the chat at the moment that I can see. Does anyone have any last questions they want to pop in the chat?
Laura, while we see that, I'm going to pull something off my wall here. This is proof of our industry alignment to get Hotel Carbon Measurement Initiative and aligned. This says August of 2011. And I look at this often when I'm in my office because I think it just goes to the power of the industry and the power of alignment and how much more powerful we can be by working together. And I think it's really, really incredible. And I think this example of the procurement criteria is one more of those very clear signals that we are better when we work together, and the industry has just continued to align and work on these really important areas together. Even though we fiercely compete on the backside on execution, I think the pre-competitiveness of so much of this is really, really important, both to the travel suppliers and the buyers. So I just wanted to point that out.
Really well said, Denise. We have one more question that's
sorry, Mark. Collaboration. This industry is stronger through collaboration. We can't do this independently of each other. And this is the output of this is just really the strength of this industry that you state. Absolutely, 100%.
Fantastic. I know we've only got a few minutes left, so should we do one more question and then
sure.
closing takeaways? So the question is, it was mentioned that we will expect RFP platforms to align and implement the standardized questions. Do you have any insights regarding their challenges or timelines?
I can take that one. Thanks for the question. I myself am not a technology person. I'm not a developer, so I can't speak to the intricacies of what it takes to get this up to date. But I do know that it's challenging, and it's more challenging than even I realized. There's a lot of little touch points and things that go into procurement platforms, and all of that needs to be updated whenever we do an update. That's why the GBTA RFP template had not been updated since 2013, because it is such a process to get it up to date. But we do realize how important it is to make sure that these systems are updated to support things like CSRD and what we're seeing in 2024. So as I said, reach out to your RFP provider, ask them about their specific timeline, what challenges they might face, and see how we can all kind of help as an industry move things along.
Very good. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. We are very, very honored that we have been able to achieve something like this, and we can't thank GBTA for leading this conversation and leading the cause over the last 2 years, and thousands of hours of effort. And quite frankly, this is, I think Mark said it and Denise has said it extraordinarily well. It is about collaboration. It's about working together to create founded and comprehensive solutions for this industry that so desperately needs it. So with that in mind, I think we'll close today's panel. Thank you to each of you for your contribution today. And thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.